Thanks for having me, and thanks to Ansha for arranging this. Education is, it's the most transformational and powerful tool in the world. And when I see initiatives that are being integrated with technology to bring world-class education to India, then I find that whole proposition to be extremely inspiring. And the reason I say this is because whilst Indian academic education is world-class, education needs to go beyond academics. And I really strongly believe that the difference between traditional education and life education is that traditional education teaches you only how to make a living, but life education teaches you how to make a life and how to make a fortune. And so when you combine traditional education with life education, it becomes an extremely powerful combination. And I consider, my people say to me, what do you do, Ron? You're a wealth advisor, you're an author, you're a speaker. What do you actually do? And I say, I'm a teacher in my spirit. That's really who I am. And I love teachers. And I want teachers to become the celebrities of tomorrow. I don't want athletes and actors. I want teachers to be the celebrities of tomorrow, because teachers add the most transformational value than any other professional. A good teacher who is able to provide outcomes and results and is able to shift paradigms is the most important and influential person in the student's life. And so I'm on a mission to bring world-class education to India, but also to bring transformational life education that integrates intellect with emotional intelligence, with financial intelligence, commercial intelligence, spiritual intelligence, and heart-based intelligence to create holistically successful human beings. And so I'm really excited to be here, and I really respect the work that Ansha is doing, and it's an honor. And so thank you for welcoming me.
Thank you so much, Ron, for your brief introduction. I think we should also we will also look forward from you to know more about your program on the successful male, how it is going to support women in terms of their empowerment. While we know that we need not empower anybody. Everybody has their own power. The only thing what we can do is provide an ecosystem or environment which is more growth oriented for them. And I really feel that your program can help into that. So if you can throw some light on that, it would be really great.
Thank you, Ansha. I remember the first time I started sharing about the successful man in 2015. A lot of women jumped on and said, and they started to think that I was a sexist. And they said, you know, what's going on? Don't you want to help women? And I was invited to a women's event, and I was talking about the successful male, and a woman got up and she said, excuse me, why are you doing this? And I said, what do you mean? Why am I doing what? She said, why are you helping men? Don't you understand that women need help? And I looked at her and I said, who do you think I'm trying to help? You see, for the last 250,000 years that the human race has been around, we know that women have been oppressed and suppressed for majority of that. Only in the last 3 or 4 decades are women starting to experience the rights and the privileges that men have. Having said that, what has happened also is that the women's liberation movement, instead of just empowering women, certain components and elements started to attack and demonize men. And as a consequence, what we're now seeing is that there are a whole community and section of men that are becoming highly stubborn. And now we've created this friction between the genders. And I looked at this woman and I said to her, I said, look, would you not want to be in a world where more men are self-aware, have more self-control, and have achieved self-mastery? Do you not want to be in a world like that? So the successful male is not anti-women. We determined that the best way and to help women was to raise and develop high-quality men who were holistically successful, meaning they had found their life's purpose, they were highly inspired, they had emotional intelligence, they also had financial intelligence, and they were high-charactered and disciplined human beings. We know that that type of man becomes an asset to his family, he becomes an asset to his community, he becomes an asset to his industry, and he becomes an asset to his country. So we have already seen that the women's liberation movement, whilst it's done some wonderful things for women, it has created friction between the genders. And so for us, being pro-men doesn't mean that we're anti-women. In fact, we are pro-men because we're pro-women. And I felt that there was no initiative in the market that was bringing men and women together, because men and women are very similar. We both want the same things. We both want to love, we both want to matter, and we want to live a good life. But the message has been lost in translation. And so that's the problem that I'm trying to fix through the Successful Male movement. You guys can hear me okay still? I see some familiar faces.
Yes,
we can hear you.
We were just unmuting ourselves to speak to you because we wanted to be loud and clear for you. Sudha, do you have some questions to Ron which you would like to speak about on the Successful Male? I very well know that Sudha is a person who always been talking about women empowerment, have been inspiration to a lot of people, and even worked with a lot of NGOs to support on women empowerment. And as you rightly said, that it has mostly created friction, and we've been just trying to find out the right ways to ensure that it becomes more smoother and help everybody. So considering that scenario, Sudha, do you have something in your mind?
Well, thank you, Anshav, for giving me that pedestal, though I don't need it, so thanks anyways. But one thing, Ron, which I would like to ask you is, why did you start Successful Male? Why not something else?
Well, that's because we wanted to redefine success for men. At the moment, you have two types of men generally that you'll see. You have the men that are massively driven by financial success and career success. They're driven by prestige and power. You also have a whole another generation of men that are opting out of the capitalist system. They don't want to work. They want to just do some yoga and meditation. And so you basically have these two extremes, men that are highly driven and then men that have no drive. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to redefine success for men so that success is not just measured in terms of financial or career success. It's also measured in terms of fulfillment, purpose, inspiration, and also making a positive difference. Now, if you ask most people, what does success mean to you? I can tell you that most people cannot answer this question. Most people have no idea what kind of success they're aiming for. They're blindly aiming for the type of success that has been sold to them by the media or by cultural conditioning or by educational conditioning. That's why most people are working in the same direction and trying to achieve the same things. And the fact is that success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. I have dealt with many, many men who have great degrees, and they're making good money, they work in big corporations, they have status and they have prestige, but they lack self-confidence, they lack self-esteem, they have problems with their health, they have problems in their relationship, they have problems in the bedroom. And so the problem is that the entire education system has taught these men how to make a living, but it has taught them nothing about making a life. And so the problem now is that women are bearing the brunt of that in many cases, because when a woman marries a man who is unhappy and unfulfilled, the woman actually has to bear the aggression of that man in many cases, because men are not very good at emotionally connecting with themselves. So typically what happens is a man will start to create problems in the family through aggression or by reaching for that bottle of alcohol. So you have to go to the root cause of the problem. You see, most people are looking at initiatives that fix the symptoms of the problem. Very few people are talking about the root cause of the problem. And the root cause is the education system is inadequate. It's absolutely inadequate. Now, there was research done on who are the most fulfilled people on the planet. And they found that there was a three-part criteria. The most fulfilled people on the planet had identified their life's purpose and were living their life's purpose. They were maximizing their potential, and they were using their potential to make a positive difference in the world. Now, you tell me, how many people do you know, or all the people that are listening, how many people do you know in your entire life, in your entire network, that are living holistically fulfilled life? They're living their passion and their purpose, they're maximizing their potential, and they're making a difference to others. You will find that most men are not in that zone. Even most women are not in that zone. But having said that, women are more emotionally connected with themselves and others. Women typically demonstrate a higher character than men. And one of the things that I said to Anshev yesterday, when we were talking yesterday, I said, Anshev, tell me, what are the main world problems that exist today? And I said, there's poverty, there's human trafficking, there's sex trafficking, there's drugs, there's violence, there's financial crimes. My next question to Anshev was, how many of the problems that I have listed are human problems? And Anshev said 100%. I said, right. And I said, what percentage of those human problems are caused by the male species? And he said, majority of them. So I said, if you're going to fix the world problems, you've got to start with men. And so we're on a mission, rather than attacking men, which is not the solution, because it's not their fault that the education system and the cultural conditioning didn't teach them this stuff. What we're trying to do is we're saying, let's redefine success for men. So it's holistic, it's not one-dimensional. Let's make sure that they're emotionally intelligent, but they're also spiritually aware, they're socially aware, they've found their purpose, they've got peace of mind, they're healthy, but they're also doing financially and commercially well. Let's integrate the spiritual and the financial to create holistic human beings that will become an asset to their communities, to their families, to their industries, and to their countries. I hope I've answered that question to your satisfaction.
Great. I think that really makes sense, the point you said, rather than attacking men, we should be redefining them and making the financial and spiritual combination. It's a beautiful one, Ron. So thank you. I think that's a very good answer. And thank you for that.
I think both genders need to stop attacking each other and realize that they've got to work with each other. There are so many women's initiatives that are cropping up. And it's wonderful because women do need support in so many areas, and largely women are still disadvantaged. But we have to be careful that we don't make a pro-women movement an anti-men movement. Because the more we do that, you're going to start to see that there's going to be other movements, men's movements, that are going to become anti-women movements. And how is that good for our future generations? It's not. So we can't keep talking about the symptoms of the problem. We've got to identify the root cause of the problem. And the root cause is a lack of understanding of life and success principles. And so it starts with education. And Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful transformational tool in the world. And that is absolutely true. But we're not talking about skills-based academic or professional education. We are talking about the need to have life success education. I mean, it's not that the men that are even running after money are even becoming successful. They're not. You know, because one of the things that I find the most strange is that the reason we go to school is so that we can go to university. The reason we go to university is so we can get a job. The reason we get a job is so we can make money. But the two ways that you actually make money, which is investing and business, are both not taught in schools and universities. So the education system, whilst it's wonderful, is largely inadequate. And when you take skills-based education and you combine that with life success education, you have an unbeatable combination. And that's what we're trying to, that's the gap that we're trying to fix. And the reason we started with men is because men are so behind on that. Not all men, but majority of men are massively behind. Whereas women on all fronts, from discipline to character, to social connections, to emotional intelligence, but even levels of affluence and entrepreneurial success and academic scores, that women are starting to do really well. So whilst women are doing well and we're celebrating that women are doing well, let's not forget our men. Let's not forget our men, because how can we have a family where only one person is doing well? In fact, that's going to create even more friction between men and women. So what we decided to do was, let's start with men, but you'll be interested in knowing that we plan on launching the Successful Woman as well. But we started with men because that's where we found the biggest gap.
Okay, Ron. So,
just one question, Ron, out of curiosity. So while you're changing the men, do you have something for the school? Because that's the building block of any nation. So you have anything in mind to introduce this into school or colleges? Because that's where, the logics or the sentiments are being built. So do you have anything in mind for that?
so
I do. I'll tell you, I have to tell you this, right? I was born in India, and I've always asked myself this question. What does it mean to be a world-class Indian? What does it mean to be the type of Indian who is well respected in the international community? Somebody that is completely congruent with their personality, somebody that makes professional impact, somebody that has both emotional intelligence as well as intellectual intelligence. I've been asking myself this question for a number of years, and I have studied success for the last 11 years. And yes, you are absolutely right. This needs to start at school. But some of these concepts, we have to simplify these concepts so they can be understood and applied by young people. But right now, there is a lot of vested interest also in the education industry. So we'll have to work with stakeholders in the education industry to get them to see that when they combine good quality academic education with success education, it can make a difference. So yes, we are looking at a version of this particular program for men and women, for young children as well, because you're absolutely right. Those are the foundational years. And if in those foundational years, we can teach children that you need to define what success means to you before you blindly aim for it, that there is a way that you can identify your strengths, your values, your passion, and your purpose. And there is a way that you've got to discipline your mind so you're fully in control of your thoughts and emotions. Those are the foundational things that children will need to learn. And so, yes, we do have plans of creating a version for the schools and universities.
okay, yeah.
Thank you, Ron. That's really nice. Thank you. I think I don't have any more questions. I'm open to others.
So Jaya, Mr. Pandita, I asked from Bangalore. We have Poonam and Dolly here, and of course Rakesh. So
Please don't let Poonam ask me any questions, because she asks very difficult questions. Hi Poonam, how are you? Good to see you.
Ron, in fact, hi, this is Ayaz here. Ron, in fact, you pointed out a very important aspect. I mean, something which even I had experienced it during my education days. The issue is the thought process which is imbibed or taught is a job-minded or a salary-minded approach. Okay, you do this, you'll get a good job. You do this, you'll get a good job. Whether it is school, and then it is carried forward in college and junior college and degree college as well. And even this, the post-graduation courses, they are focused on a specific type of job. So that's a very interesting aspect. It's something which I do have been observing. Do this, you'll get a good job. You'll be picked up from a good company, and you'll get a good salary. So it's a whole system we're talking about changing. The whole approach. I mean, introducing an entrepreneurial mindset from early school days.
Very good question. So cultural paradigms do not change. You're absolutely right. Cultural paradigms do not change easily. After all, if you really understand how cultures are built, you have somebody that has a thought, Once they entertain that thought over and over again, it becomes a belief. Once that belief is spread to a lot of people, it becomes culture. And when it's passed on from generation to generation, it becomes tradition. Once a thought or a belief becomes a culture or a tradition, people stop questioning it and start blindly following it. George Bernard Shaw said, when everyone's thinking the same, no one's thinking, right? And so we have this. Having said that, I must say I'm extremely encouraged by the mindset of young Indians because they are very ambitious and they innately know that there is a problem in the education. They know it. How they know it is because they have seen their parents and grandparents struggle. Okay? They have seen that their parents work for 40 years, grandparents work for 30, 40 years, and no one's got money. Not only have they not got money, they haven't got fulfillment, and they haven't got lifestyle, and they haven't got diverse experience. They have already seen it. Now, here is the thing. The education system largely is following the industrial revolution and the information age, but we're no longer in the industrial revolution, and we're no longer in the information age. We're in the social age. The entire dynamics of not only work, but business has also changed. Today, we can take one individual in Nigeria who can start a global business on the internet and get paid between 250 to 350,000 US dollars in a year working part-time. Why? Because the entire world is your market. You're not restricted by geographical location. But it's very hard to get people who have the blinkers on and they're looking for a job. I just want a job. I just want a job. I just want a job, for them to see anything else in the periphery. They have the ability, but they don't have the awareness. So how do you bring awareness to these people? You bring awareness simply through education. One of the things I was extremely encouraged by is that when you actually show the entire macro environment in which people are working and they've been educated, and once they understand, there is a paradigm shift. There is a paradigm shift that occurs. Then from there, what happens is that the second challenge that a lot of young Indians will have is to convince their own parents, because there is already this deep-rooted, oh, you're going to take a big risk, you're going to lose money, my uncle lost money, my auntie lost money, be very careful. So then they're coming from a place of fear. So then we have to work on their psychology. And this is not easy, right? And I'm glad that you brought up this question, because I'm under no illusion that this is going to be an easy thing to fix. But I know it's fixable. It is 100% fixable. I mean, you look at, the issue is that Indians are technically brilliant, but when it comes to being on the world stage and when it comes to how they show up internationally, they do not make an impact. Majority of them don't, regardless of their education. And I'm not saying that to be critical. I'm saying that because I'm of an Indian background, and it hurts me to see exceptionally brilliant Indians not reaching their potential. And what's interesting is that the Carnegie Institute of Technology did this research, and they found that 85% of your financial, career, and commercial success comes from your personality, your ability to connect, lead, and negotiate. Only 15% of your commercial, financial, and career success comes from your technical capabilities and experience. Despite that, you will find that Indian graduates spend years and decades training themselves on technical expertise and experience, but spend virtually no time on developing their personality, their ability to lead, connect, and negotiate. So, and here is the thing. We now know that the problems of the world are not going to be solved by corporations, and they're not going to be solved by the government. So who's going to solve world problems? Entrepreneurs and thought leaders. Only entrepreneurs and thought leaders are going to solve world problems. So we need to develop and upskill and provide resources and tools for more people to go from that category of being a student or a professional to becoming a successful entrepreneur or a successful thought leader. And we have an entire process that dissects the framework for them to go from one place to another. But the first thing that we work on is their mindset, because of the way they think. If the way they think doesn't change, It doesn't matter what they know. It doesn't matter how much education they have. They're not going to take the right actions. It's as simple as that. Everybody in the world knows that we shouldn't smoke. Everybody in the world knows that we should have more vegetables. Everybody in the world knows that we should not lie. We should exercise. Everybody knows this, but why don't people do it? Because information does not cause transformation. For behaviors to change, there must be a deep paradigm shift. And the right type of education delivered the right way is the only way to cause that permanent paradigm shift.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Ron. That was really, I mean, in fact, that's something which even I was very strongly thinking of. We're talking about a huge paradigm shift, and because at different levels, beginning from early school days, and then yes, it would automatically have a what do you call it, as a domino effect or a cascading effect.
And we also have to invite parents.
Yes,
involve them in this process. Say, look, the current world education system, this is what it's done. 50% of the world lives on less than $1,500 a year. Currently, according to Deloitte, they have a report called the Global Shift in Wealth. There are only 15,600,000 individuals that have a net worth of $1 million outside their family home. That represents just over 2% of the world population. Not that $1 million is a lot of money today. The definition of rich kicks in at 500 million. So we can't even get 2% of the entire world population to $1 million net worth. Don't you see that there is a massive problem in the education industry? It is training people how to do a job, but it's not training people how to think for themselves and create and innovate and disrupt anything. They don't have the confidence, they don't have the skills, and they don't have the ability to think on how to do that. And again, I'm not criticizing anybody because I used to be one of those people. I have gone through the same traditional education system, which let me down. So the education system has a lot of merit, but it's inadequate. And so we have to teach proper frameworks and we have to have the methodology. It's just not what you teach, it's how you teach it. And the parents need to understand that the system that they're forcing their children into is going to produce children who are going to grow up unhappy, unfulfilled. They're going to have relationship problems. They're going to have confidence and self-esteem problems. They're going to even have financial problems. So why are these parents doing it? Because the parents mean well, but they don't understand that the world has changed. You can't play by the old rules. We have enough record, enough evidence to see how the past generations have failed. So we must stop and think. Just because everyone's doing the same thing doesn't make it right. For many years, everyone thought that slavery was right. For many years, everyone thought that it was okay to treat women badly. For many years, people thought it was okay to treat black people badly. But that doesn't make it right. So we have to stop and we have to start educating the parents first, because the problem is if you educate the children, they're going to go back into an environment where they're not going to be supported and encouraged. So you've got to start with the parents.
Yeah, so thank you, Ron, for this insightful, explanation. And I think the way you have explained it actually covers the entire life cycle of a human being and completely gender neutral. So it actually takes away the focus from men versus women and bring the focus more towards synergy of the entire human population. And I think one very important factor which you have mentioned about, bringing or catching them young. That's one of the theme of Bringle Academy for the school children, where I think Jaya and Dolly would be talking about how, we are trying to set up after school programs for K1-2 segment to basically focus on those 90% of the skill sets or education which is not being taught in schools today. And whatever is being taught there is not relevant for their future growth, or by the time they realize that they are, they need to do something for their career. They're already out in the professional world, and they have very limited, I would say, opportunity, and also from a learning capability point of view, it becomes limited. So if we can catch them young, I'm sure, in those probably SDCs or skills development centers, and bring this component over there, I think it is going to make a marvelous impact on the whole society. And that's what I look at.
The first thing before you teach them the skills, Anshav, and you're absolutely right, because everybody recognizes this as well. But what people are not recognizing is that people have no knowledge of themselves. Like, one of the things we did was we looked into traditional psychology, we looked at the science of achievement, we looked into neuroscience, epigenetics, we looked into metaphysics, quantum physics, philosophy, spirituality, and theology to identify the best practices of transformation. And what we realized was that spirituality and science are saying the same things. And they're saying the same things. You've got to know who you are, and who you are is not your name, it's not your nationality, it's not your culture, it's not your body, it's a lot more than that. It's your purpose, it's your passion, it's your values, it's your strengths, it's your mission. You've got to know that. Second thing you've got to learn is how your mind works. Intellect is only one part of your mental faculty. You have several other resources that are available to you mentally, but they're sitting dormant. So one of the reasons we explain to people is that no matter what age you are, neuroplasticity has confirmed that you can change your mind and you can change your results at any age. And you need to know the tools of how to do that. You have to change your subconscious conditioning to change your behaviors permanently. And willpower is not the solution. And motivational speakers are not the solution either. Because motivational speakers make you motivated for 2-3 days. And then what happens? You come back to work and you're back to being the same person. Motivation is not the permanent solution. So the question we asked ourselves is motivation is not the solution. What is the solution? And then we've drafted our entire program and our teachings around what causes long-term and sustainable transformation. So that when a person's thinking changes permanently, how they feel changes permanently, how they act changes permanently, and therefore the results change permanently. So it's an incredible science. And I'm so excited because when people understand it, it's like a whole new shift that happens in their mind. And you see the look in people's faces and you go, my God, my whole life, I have been living like a blind person. Now I finally see how things happen. And we show them the science behind it. And we also say that, you'll be amazed how much of this wisdom is already in the Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's already all this wisdom, but it has been misinterpreted and misunderstood and misapplied. So the foundations of what we teach is actually in the scriptures, the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, and you'll find that all of this stuff has been around for generations, but it's been lost. And so it's about integrating that, but creating practical application of that from that education to get desirable outcomes. This is what we found no one was doing in the world.
Absolutely, Ron. So I think, do you have anybody who has any other questions? Otherwise, I think we can then move to the next speaker.
Except Poonam, please. Only joking, Poonam.
I know, Ron, that you can, and I would like to hear this again, more and more. But I think let's set up another forum specifically for this. For the successful male, because the way you are working out on this initiative is not just making males successful, it's also creating wonders for the women. And so the combination of the successful male and wonder women is the core theme of women empowerment. Ideally, it should be, because it has to be gender neutral. So the way your thought process is right now working and the way you are envisioning it is going to really make a difference in the society. And we will definitely would take it up across the globe because that is required. very, very much. So thanks, Ron, for joining at such a late hour and still being part of